It'll give it a bit of function.
My Challenger obsession started late 80s, actually 6 months after I bought my first Mopar, which is the Dodge Charge 970. And then this Challenger came up the very week that I settled on my house, which didn't go too well at the time. But anyway, back in the day, right-hand drive conversion, had 360 in it, and I built it with my wife in mind, who actually took it down the quarter mile for a bit of fun. That was a bit hair-raising. But this is our first where the Challenger obsession started. 5 years ago I was offered this pretty scruffy looking 71 Challenger, but one thing it had going for it was a totally original untouched car, as in no bodywork. You know, what you saw is what you got. Did need some lower quarter rust repairs, had a little bit of nibbling over the roof in front of the windshield at the very top. Basically pretty solid. Original floors, original boot floor, just, you know, plenty of usual small dings and stuff from its age. It was missing its dash pad, instrument cluster, door trims, front seats, bits and pieces, headlight surrounds were missing. Had some good things going for it, and then it had some other things missing. The bumper bars, had a drum brake set up on it. Pleasure to drive. I don't like every e-body to drive, but this one just got a very nice feel about it. Beautiful in its suspension, not too hard but not too soft. It's just right. I said that before. It steers lovely through the steering wheel. There's no vibrations. It's very smooth to turn. Just got a really nice feel on the road. It's very tight. The car doesn't rattle, doesn't squeak. Some of the e-bodies are a bit floppy, they tend to flop around a bit in the panel work. This car's just lovely and tight, I think. Given that it started off as a 6-cylinder car, it's probably just been padded around. And now, of course, got a big block in it, but back in the day, probably ladies run around to the shops and back, who knows. So, got some pickup. let's go and have a bit of a look around her. So the 71 Dodge Challenger was a car I picked up a few years ago now, and I've said this before on the channel, it's kind of like a impulse buy or something fell on my lap. Really what it is, that I'm always looking, even though I don't think I need one, something presents itself and then I do need it. And sometimes they work out really well, sometimes they don't. But this particular car has. I got it relatively cheap. It was a slant 6 car, 3 on the floor. Actually pretty rare, they only made a couple of thousand of them in that configuration. But I don't really want to drive around a slant 6 in a Dodge Challenger. I just don't think it'd be right. So I kind of mocked it up into an RT. That's kind of liberating, getting a car that there's nothing original about it. You can just do whatever you want with it and enjoy it. Change the colour, put whatever engine in you like. And I kind of did that with this car. I actually initially was thinking I'd probably clean it up and move it on. Sometimes I do that, most times I don't. And it turned out when I finished it, I liked it so much I couldn't be without it. So it's ended up staying in the stable. I took a few little Q liberties. I've kind of made it look like an RT, but I'm not really that fussed about it being genuine. To make it look genuine, I don't really mind. What I did do though was, if you look at the paint treatment on the front of the car, the 71 Challenger RTs had an option with a painted bumper, which was split half black on the top half to match the grille, and the grille was obviously predominantly black. And I always felt in the 71 Challenger that it was too stark. I didn't like the look of it being all black, so I took my own styling cue and thought it's something personally that Chrysler should have done, running the typical argent silver they run in the grille, which is a textured, as you can see, quite an argent grey. And I painted it exactly the same way as if it was an RT, except I painted it grey. So I've done that at the front and also the rear. I also had some TA chin spoilers kicking around, so I threw them on. And the rally wheels, I have built those about 15 years ago, probably 20 years ago actually, which are 15x7 that I had re-rimmed. So it's just standard old 14-inch rally wheels. I had the rims cut off and chrome larger rims put on. So it's 15x7 at the front, but actually 15x8 at the back. Just gives that little bit of a look. I put the RT scallops in the quarters because I reckon they're kind of cool. Same with the stripe. And here's the tail end package painted in my styling. So originally that would have been predominantly black in this combination, and I've just done it in a grey. And I've had a lot of people that really like the difference. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's what I wanted to do. The red isn't a factory colour, even though it looks a lot like rally red.
It's a colour I actually got quite cheap because I was thinking about selling it. I called it resale red at the time, and I'm not normally a red guy, but as the car turned out, it's just one of them things. It just came along and just turned out really good, and I just love it. So I've just kept it, and I drive it a lot. It's pretty nice down the sides, pretty straight. Get out there and have some fun. And when the car came along, I'd not long, or a little while before that, bought a 68 Charger that had Challenger bucket seats in it for some reason. So I had a lot of this car kind of sitting around in parts. I had the Challenger front seats. I picked up the console at a swap meet. I had the 383 4-barrel engine that was in the Charger with the 727 automatic, and I was going to put a stroked big block in the Charger, which I did. So I had the 383, basically no use for it, so I chucked it in this one. And I don't know anything about the history of the motor, but it's a real beauty. It goes like the clappers. So really good turnout, great looking car, hard to beat the look of a Challenger. They really are such a good shape. I get a lot of remarks where you drive it, turning up at service stations or car parks. Get a lot of people who really like it, and so do I. So it's going to stay with me for a bit longer yet. So this is a driver. Engine bay was obviously completely stripped out. I had the car media blasted, so the engine bay was perfectly back to bare steel. But it's a driver, so I'm not worried about it keeping it looking too clean, or wasn't worried about looking stock. I just want to have some fun in it. It's got a Torque single plane intake manifold, a Edelbrock 750 carburetor, 4-1 extractors, as you can see, and this gets up and goes. I don't know anything about the engine, who built it, but it absolutely flies. It's got a stock cam as far as I can tell. It's a smooth idle, but it just goes really well. So it's a good combination, good fun.
I got offered a Dodge Challenger, which I heard about through the grapevine, factory 440 RT. Yeah, literally sitting in a barn. I know everyone talks about barn finds, but this was literally on a farm barn shed, and it was just a shell with a rolling shell, no hang-on panels, no interior. And basically went up there with my good buddy Paul, and we did a rough assembly together. It took a couple of hours and put all the sheet metal, hung everything on the car and loaded up with every spare part it came with, so that we're able to transport it back. So I never really had intentions of keeping this car. I thought it'd be a good candidate to tidy up. The car was originally green with a black interior, but the car had been in this silver colour since the 70s. The paint job was like about 6 out of 10, so I did a few repairs, tidied it up basically, and then repainted it. It came with a brand new red interior, so I just went with that theme and put the red trim in, painted the side stripes red, put a period correct 440 727 in it. You might notice the car's right-hand drive, which was pretty common for back in the day in the 80s. It had to be right-hand drive in Australia. So the car just went back the way I bought it, and then I pushed it on down the line. But it really looked good when it was finished. It really popped, got a lot of attention.